Hey guys, today I'm going to answer the question, what is dyslexia and really how it really affects our life? And I've really worked hard on this answer and really thought about it. So please listen to this, watch this, and really can you subscribe, and can you share all of this stuff, because it really helps this message get to as many people as possible. And guys, please comment and tell me what you think. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. What's happening, guys? I hope we're doing good, and I hope we're doing alright. Today I want to answer a question that's very, very big, and loads of people attempt to answer in so many different ways. But this question is, what is dyslexia? And I've worked really hard on thinking about this and answering it in the best way for you, and not just in a way that, okay, this is what the science says dyslexia is, this is what the research says dyslexia is. And I don't want to just answer it in the sense of, okay, this is my experience of dyslexia, therefore everyone would have the same thing, because people don't. People have different experiences of dyslexia. And I'm going to cover basically the whole broad spectrum. Basically, when I say spectrum, I mean it can get really complex and really murky when we talk about dyslexia, or it can become really beautiful and simple. And I want to dive into both here. So I want to first of us looking at dyslexia not as a thing, like a thing with a definition and a diagnosis, because the real dyslexia, I think dyslexic's not really like this thing like maths or English, or this thing that you can put into this box. Dyslexia is this thing that affects people's lives. It's this thing that changes their experiences of life. Because instead of thinking dyslexia as a thing, think of dyslexia as an experience. Think about that. Wouldn't that make more sense? Thinking dyslexia as an experience of someone in someone's life, instead of this thing that only affects them at a certain time. It's an experience of life, and that's the most healthiest way of looking at what dyslexia is. It's an experience, and guess what? For experiences, we can all kind of have the same thing happen to us by experiencing it in different ways, because we're at a different track in our life, or if we think differently or react differently. So dyslexia is an experience, and it's a unique experience to us. And I know, like, loads of people trying to define dyslexia in a specific way, but I know with myself, like, finding out I had dyslexia, it started off that really in year one, happily going along my days, not knowing anything different. I think it was in year one, reception. And then I started realising, hold on, these big shapes on the board, the teacher writing them, and the kids are making sounds. And they say, yeah, I'm making the sounds when the teacher wants me to. But then when the teacher isn't helping me, I can't make those sounds. I don't remember what they are. And I used to start thinking, wow, these kids are so smart. This makes no sense to do this. How does this work? This is crazy. How do you do this? And when kids start reading words, my mind was like, how does this work? How can we do this in this young? I must have like 10 more years of learning to read a word, because that's how it felt. And I was going along this happy little way for a while. And I remember realising, hold on, everyone in the class can do this, not me. Everyone can't be so smart, and I'm the old, and everyone can't be this smart genius, and I'm the normal one. It must mean everyone else is normal, and I'm the odd one out. And then I think I started realising, oh my God, I'm a bit different than everyone else. And I think when I say I'm a bit different, that can be expressed because, I remember playing football. They would hate me in goal and playing football, because I spend the whole time in the football pitch playing games with myself. So imagine football pitch, and I'm pretending like I'm shooting at dragons and I'm fighting these monsters, and I've got fireballs coming out my fists, and I'm dodging those things. And I used to, have all this imagination in the middle of a football game when I'm goalie. And they wouldn't like me when the ball was in, because I was fighting some ogre somewhere. They wouldn't understand either. And it was so weird. I never used to play the sticks and swords games I never used to play sixes towards other people because I used to find it more fun playing by myself because my imagination was a lot more real than other people. I physically thought I'd put superpowers. 100% believed it. I 100% believed it. I had super strength and my friend had like super speed. 100% believed it. You know, I had dreams about it and I thought this is who I am. I think my friend just thought it was a joke, or you mean not a joke, it was a game as a kid, but I believed it 100% because I could see it, I could feel it. It happened in my life, and other things would happen on just my imagination. And even today, it's a very, very kind of embarrassing, but kind of like it now because it's not my weird, unique thing. I have a box of sticks downstairs, like sticks I pick up when I'm walking, or some things people buy me or whatever, and I still play with them. I played with them this weekend. I pick them up and just go into my own world and play with them. I know it's weird for like a 21-year-old person to do that, but I do that. My imagination allows me to do that, and I think, well, it's fun. I don't care what other people think. It's fun, and so this is how it doesn't change just what I have in English. It changes how I look at life, how I can imagine things, how I can turn humans to normal, boring, wooden, straight stick into the staff that can destroy all these demons and create these stories, and within a split of a second be in a whole new world. And this is a side of me I don't really talk about, but this is because of my dyslexia. What other 20-year-old kid does this and admits it? You mean this is crazy thing? And I think when me having this amazing imagination, my attention span was little, very, very, very little. And as the years progressed, I think I was in year 2 and year 3, I started getting very, very angry. Very angry at everyone else, because I think subconsciously I was like, I want to hurt you before you have the chance to hurt me, because you find out that I couldn't read or write. Because I started realising, look, I am dumb, I am stupid. Like, how can I do this? How can I do anything? And then because no one could understand me, I had to speak my big speech delay, and all of this stuff was happening. And I remember like being in a mood for no reason and saying I've got no friends, even though I had a couple, like quite a lot of friends. I kept on saying I had no friends. And this story of like, I'd lash out at home, lash out in school. I was losing, I couldn't go sleep. I was losing loads of sleep. I had belly cramps throughout the day because I was scared I was for the future. And all these things was happening. And I remember this is how it all like changed for me. I was walking home with my mum, and I squeezed her hand tightly just before I went upstairs and said, Mum, I don't want to be, I wish I was never alive. I wish I was never born. Because that's how I'm experiencing it at the moment. And that's not some diagnosis thing about, oh, this is because of this made me, you mean it's because of this and this and this. No, this is how I felt about myself, and this was my experience of dyslexia. And I'm getting diagnosed and not getting diagnosed. I'm still the same person. The day before and the day after, I'm still the exact same person. The only difference is what I've made it believe to me. That's why it's an experience. And the reason why I want to talk about this is about the experience that people have with dyslexia is unique. It's to them. It's not some person in a lab coat telling you what dyslexia is. No, you know what dyslexia is because you've lived through it. Because it's not all scientific. Your dyslexia does not affect you all in a scientific way. It affects you a hell of a lot more in an emotional way. An emotional way on how it, like you mean emotional way, how what you believe about yourself, what you feel about dyslexia, what you believe you can do, what you believe people are judging you. All these things. And I want to get in, so my really big point I want to get across is that dyslexia is really emotional and it's an experience people go through. But I want to skip back a bit. Let's look at this word dyslexia and let's find out, okay, let's find a bit of history behind it. And dyslexia is a word that got invented over 130 years ago by a German ornithologist who had clients and stuff, and basically like they couldn't figure out why these basically intelligent people couldn't read sounds. And so he called it, I think he called the word blindness, some other person called it dyslexia. Basically, over 130 years, we've been looking about why are these people unable to read? Or we're looking at the deficits of dyslexia for decades and decades. And it's really only since like last, I think, 20 or 30 years since the invention of the MRI machine, since they could like take a photo of someone's brain and look at the brain and how it works. And when people was doing this, like they saw differences in how the brain is wired differently than a dyslexic person to a non-dyslexic person when they read and they don't do certain tasks, and it looks different. When they're doing certain tasks, other areas is active, and there's so many theories. I remember, like, this is why I don't want to get too in-depth about the theories, because there's like 4 types of dyslexia, auditory processing, all these other types of dyslexia, but I don't want to get into that. And there's loads of other theories about why dyslexia exists, and the theory of this, the theory of that. And that really, I remember spending so much time and so much energy researching it and understanding it. that really had no benefit to me understanding myself. It had no really benefit. I mean, of course it's cool to understand that. Of course it's fascinating to understand that. But really, I'm unique on this journey. You know, I'm going on this journey and it's unique to me. And yes, of course, there's so many similarities. And it's really good to understand why you do what you do. But ultimately, you have to deal with it. Ultimately, you try to have to get better, you're trying to improve. So yes, all these theories about dyslexia. But one thing I really learned is that dyslexia, like my experience with dyslexia is different than other people's experience of dyslexia, even though it's the same damn thing. And a lot of it's controlled by what we believe about it. A lot of it's controlled by, oh, my dyslexia limits me, my dyslexia is a disability, my dyslexia means I can't do these things. But ultimately, think about this, dyslexia is a word invented 130 years ago just to describe why some certain people are different. That's all dyslexia is. It's a word why some people are different, and they put you in this little bubble, like saying, okay, you're dyslexic, you're in this little bubble, this thing. And once you understand that, you really have the power back in your life. You know what I mean? You really sort of say, oh no, I'm not burdened by this thing called dyslexia. I can do whatever I want with it, really. I can kind of create my life with it. And I think I want to give a good explanation of, because we talked about a bit of history, I want to talk about a bit about neuroscience, the science in the brain. Because I said this, the changes in the brain. But I want to say something that's really interesting about this. Say when it was dyslexic, I'm going to say something really interesting. When basically there's this person, I forgot his name, I don't know, a TED talk about dyslexia. You type in dyslexia, his TED talks come up, he's almost got 1 million views on a TED talk talking about dyslexia. It's so good. But basically what he says is so good. What he says is that at its very start, he talks about the neuroscience of dyslexia. And he says, okay, let's look at the neuroscience of dyslexia. And he says, okay, in our dyslexia, we've got this cortex. Prefrontal, cortex around the brain. Forgive me if I make facts wrong, but the cortex around the brain. And then in our brain, we have these things called mini columns, and they're basically like telephone wires around our brain connecting everything. And at the end of all these mini columns, we have a thing called axons. And like with different people, their axons are longer or shorter together. Like mini columns are longer or shorter together. And basically, what he says, it makes so much sense. What he says is about people, say for example, people with autism typically have mini columns and axons really close together in a finite space, and it's really close. And because they have axons, which means they can pass information so fast between each other, they can do things in such good detail. They can have specific patterns of behavior in such good detail. Because of their axons is really close together, they can pass information really close. But dyslexics, their mini columns are spaced far apart. Their axon lengths are spaced far apart. And all axon length is basically how far does the message have to cross. You mean to get one axon to another to pass it, and it's really far. And this can lead us in so many strengths. A unique strength, for example, we can create an image completely from our mind and visualize it so clearly and so articulatedly, and we manipulate it in so many different ways. And this lends some massive strengths. So there's 4 vocation areas that dyslexics are so good at, and I 100% agree with these. I don't know if there's only these 4. It's probably more, but he said these 4. There's entrepreneurship, engineering, architecture, and the arts. These things are really strong, okay? Dyslexia are really strong at that because of how they use their minds, okay? But also because of these big axon lengths, there's difficulties. There's difficulties in the phonological processing, which means turning this squiggle of a letter, or this shape and symbol of a letter, and turning that and seeing that and processing that and turning that into a sound, and stringing all these symbols together and stringing them all into basically making a word. And I remember sitting like down when I was a kid, you know what I mean, in like year 1, year 2, and everyone doing it, turning this symbol into a sound and these sounds together to make a word. I was thinking, how is this possible? Other people doing it like that. I was thinking, how is this possible? And we feel like this, and then we feel like this isn't possible. Then we call ourselves dumb and stupid. But kind of what dyslexia really is like, if you look at the kind of specifics of it, is a problem understanding of phonemes. Phonemes are the very core fundamental of a word. the core basic of a word, the sound of like a certain letter, and studying so many phonemes together, it makes a word. Those are phonemes, and dyslexics are really difficult finding these phonemes. And so we understand this, and so we understand dyslexia. Okay, dyslexia makes our mind really creative, really visual, but we have trouble understanding our phonemes. And our phonemes, like the really basic words, and that can lead to so many other problems and so many other specific tasks that require really in-depth detail. Okay, so if you understand, here's why we want to get across to people. Dyslexia does not limit you and does not stop you in any way. It's a different way of processing. Because your accent lengths are further apart, it's a different way of thinking, different way of operating than others. And because of that, because of the brain's wired differently, does not mean anything's impossible. It means things can be harder, means you have to find ways around things, but things are not impossible. And there's two reasons why people don't succeed with dyslexia, why people don't think it's a gift or don't experience it as a gift. There's two reasons. And I'll follow this and follow it with a little like blueprint. It's really easy and it's so amazing. So there's two reasons. Really, really simple if you look at it from a bird's eye view, but they're two massive chunks that people don't really look at. And it's so critical. The first one is what I call basically the strategy for learnings. The strategy for learning, also what I call these physical, the physical attributes of dyslexia. Like the strategy of learning, okay, dyslexics' brain are wired differently. How does a dyslexic brain learn? How do they operate? How can they do things? And also finding ways around problems. For example, these are things like reading, like writing, like finding directions, like remembering people's names or lists, or doing things that are cognitively quite hard for the individual dyslexic person. And these are things that we don't develop, that we're born with. Does that make sense? We are born with. And yes, we can improve upon them with the right strategy. And if it things that we seem so hard to improve upon them, we can work ways around them. Okay? So there are the solutions, and all the 130 years of research, 99% of it has been on, okay, why is this person find it hard to read and write, and what are the solutions towards this person? And your solutions are out there to help this person read and write, to help this person overcome these obstacles that they're facing, these obstacles that they're born with. So these are what I call the physical problems, and I really want people to understand that. And they're not really there's problems and there's the gifts. The gifts are visualization, the gifts are creativity, there's gifts and there's challenges, okay? So that's the physical side of things. But then, one reason is that you don't have the right strategy to help you learn. You don't have the right strategy to tell you, okay, your brain is wired differently, here's where you've got to go. Because we're built in an education system that is meant for this term called neurodiversity. And think of neurodiversity as like this. Like neurodiversity means like how the brain's wired. Neuro, like the brain, diversity is diverse. Brain, diverse brain. And there's a thing called neurotypical. Neuro, brain, typical brain. And just think of a long line, like a meter ruler. Think of a long meter ruler. And at sort of like 20% of each end of the meter ruler is the neurodiverse category. And in one end of the neurodiverse category, there's dyslexics with axons lengths really far apart, and the other end of the neurodiverse line, there's autism with axon lengths really close together, and in the middle of this, like the 70% or 60% of middle of it, that is called neurotypical, where your axon lengths aren't too far or too close together to cause an abnormal or so-called abnormal behavior, and therefore your brain is wired neurotypical. It's just more average than neurodiverse people. It's just more average than neurodiverse people. So that's kind of like, think about that's what neurodiversity is. I think of dyslexia as it is a type of neurodiversity, but I really love that term of neurodiversity. I find it quite cool. So anyway, there's two types of reasons why dyslexics don't have what they want, and experience dyslexia is a limiting thing in their life. One reason is a strategy. Does that make sense? The things they're born with, like they're born with learning, reading and writing, all these issues. A lot of issues that the school tries to remedy, a lot of time people like to focus on, but that's not where the pain is. The pain isn't that you couldn't read or write, it's how it makes you feel that you can't read or write, what you believe about yourself that not makes you read and write. And guess what? You haven't always, like for example, I believe that I'm dumb because I can't read and write. You didn't always believe you're dumb, did you? You developed that over time. because there was a time where you were born, when you were younger, where you couldn't read and write, and you didn't call yourself dumb or stupid. Say, well, I can't read and write. I just carry on with my life. And this goes into the other category, the second reason why people with dyslexia can't get what they want, and this reason is the hidden reason. This reason, people talk about it, and they talk about it with self-esteem, they talk about it with confidence, but this isn't the core thing. This isn't like, there's no scientific strategies, there's a program to get through this. It's not yet, that's what I'm creating. But this is the emotional side of dyslexia. The emotional side of dyslexia is such a big topic. And it's the beliefs, how you feel about yourself, your confidence, what you decide to do and what you decide to don't do. It's what you think you can and what you think you can't do. It's so strong. Because once we failed so many times in school, our emotion gets a beating, and therefore we believe we can't do it. We believe it's more painful not to do it than it is to do it. Okay, I hope that really makes sense. And so, think about this. If we change, think about this. There's two people. One person that has the best strategy ever, but has a very, very bad mindset. Think of there's a strategy and mindset. Two camps, strategy and mindset. One person has the best strategy possible, but a really bad mindset. Person tells, okay, this is what you do for dyslexia. You do A, B, C, and D, and you learn this. Person with a really bad mindset believes nothing in himself. So, let's give it a go. I'll try A, I'll try B. Oh, look, it hasn't worked. Yeah, I'm going to give up. I can't do it. I'm dumb. Because his mindset can't do it. Because his mindset's not there. And sadly, that's what happens. So many times we stop before the end of the road, before we get there, because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe we can do it. We don't believe that, we're smart enough, we can do it. We don't believe that I can do it. But that's all false. That is false stuff. But in the other side, in the mindset camp, someone who's got the best mindset in the world, and this person comes along and gives them the world's worst strategy for learning. This person with the best beliefs, believe they can do everything with enough enthusiasm, and okay, let's keep growing now. I'm a growing machine, let's keep growing, let's keep building. Tries that strategy, tries it and realizes it doesn't work, and thinking, okay, let's change my approach until it works. I think I can do this, I'm smart, it's just a strategy. And then he keeps on going, and he goes through a lot more hardship, he goes through a lot more struggle, but he keeps on going because he believes he can, he believes it's worth it. And then guess what? At the end of the day, he finds the right strategy. He finds the thing that works, and he sticks with that, and he gets so much more better. You understand the two camps now. Mindset camp and the emotion and the physical camp. And these two camps, these are the two reasons why you don't get what you want. It's either one of each, most likely, guys. It's the mindset. Because doing anything in his life is 80% mindset, 20% doing. 8% mind psychology, 20% strategy. I had the best help in the world for 8 years of my life, and I didn't drastically improve everything. But when I left there, I had virtually zero help compared to what I was used to. I changed my mindset, and then I had everything. It's crazy when you think about it. But guys, I really hope that we can take this in and this is what dyslexia is, and use this as a foundation for us to grow upon. And this is why I call, guys, finish this off saying the dyslexic blueprint. This is just the dyslexic blueprint. Weaknesses and strengths. Weaknesses and strengths. Basically, we have weaknesses and strengths in our physical category, things we're born with, and we have weaknesses and strengths in our what I call emotional category or mindset category. Beliefs, value. Once we write this down, this is what I do. Once I write it down, it's a framework of how my dyslexia is affecting my life. People write down just the physical side of what the things they're born with, reading and writing, but they don't see their beliefs, that are the real thing holding them back. And once we see all of it, we can see what it really is. It's a jumble of things, of emotional and physical things. But once we want to work on our emotional stuff and start believing in ourselves, we will be able to go after the physical things and achieve them. Guys, I hope we've done good, and please like and share and do all this other stuff. Guys, take care, farewell, and bye.